Hey guys, Lord here, back again with another action figure review. Today I'll be taking a look at the Mattel Creations exclusive Masters of the Universe Origins Monger. Of course, brought to us by the fine folks over at Mattel. I did say it was a Mattel Creations exclusive after all. Were you not paying attention? What are you doing? What are you doing, man? I know I'm not the best toy action figure review guy here on YouTube, but I think I'm good enough to warrant the attention of your attention span for longer than 10 seconds. Come on, man. Give me some credit. Gee whiz. That said, this guy came out quite some time ago. In fact, he came out right after I went on hiatus for a long time. So, had I gotten him possibly even a week earlier, I probably would have already reviewed him, but instead, I didn't, so here we are, and that's my story, I'm sticking to it. So, bringing in the mini comic here, it is exclusive to good old Monger, at least I hope it's his, and not he's Skeletor's, who we will be looking at tomorrow. On the back there is just the MOTU logo, in case you couldn't remember what this is from. But I'm not going to spoil this for you. You got to read it for yourself. But I guess a little spoiler alert. Monger is kind of a pompous a-hole. So a bit of narcissism, a bit of addressing himself in the third person. He always refers to himself as, Monger, his name. So yeah. That said, his only other accessory is this very phallic-looking gun, which kind of looks like a trident on a Buck Rogers style laser pistol, if I'm being quite honest. Yeah, kind of suggestive looking. And I will say, he does have something interesting here. He's got little indentations in his hands for this to go in. So he actually has a good grip on it. It's not falling out of there unless you really try. So good on you guys over at Mattel for thinking that through. That's kind of genius of you, and I wish you thought about that before you release Tongue Lashers. We will pull out for comparisons later, because honestly, I'm not seeing much of a frog as I am like a salamander or a lizard or something. Like, this guy looks like he could hang out with the Snake Men rejects that aren't quite snakes, but aren't quite frogs, salamanders either. So interesting there. He does have this jetpack that I wish had like a strap that went around his waist. Because first of all, it is literally hanging on by like a neck brace, and that just does not seem safe. It seems like it would shoot right off him and take his head off with it. That said, speaking of take his head off, you can pop his head off and take this off if you want. I'm going to leave it on just cuz. But there you go. That said, for those of you not in the know, scratch my arm there, Monger is from the OG Castle Grayskull Dungeon Great sticker, which is something that is kind of rare nowadays because it came out in the 80s, and, you get a little water on a sticker that's 40 years old, it's probably going to do this thing called deteriorate and not look so minty fresh. That said, I do believe the same sticker is in the new Origins Castle Grayskull. Well, newer. It's been out for, 2 years now? Unfortunately, when I was a kid, I grew up with the 2000X Castle Grayskull, and while I love that playset still to this day, it did not have like all the cool little images and stuff that the vintage one had. Even though the vintage one could have been better, we'll say, even for the time, I think. But at the end of the day, Mattel definitely is making up for the vintage days with some of the new Origin stuff. I mean, just look at that Snake Mountain. That thing is gorgeous. That said, in the way of Monger's articulation, he's got a double ball peg in the head. He can tilt, can look up and down a little bit, rotate side to side. He's got some little teeth in there and his little froggy eyes on the side. Dig that quite a bit. His shoulders go out to the side, back down, rotate forward and back. He's got an elbow twist, single joint with rotation at the wrist and a hinge. He also has a waist twist, which I will say, other than the waist twist being kind of, 50-50 on some of these, they have definitely stiffened up the joints on these figures. I know I've said it probably in the past couple of videos I've done. I think particularly the Moss Man, if I remember correctly. But, yeah, this guy is no joke. I think I had to heat up something on him when I first got him. But this is so long ago, I honestly can't remember what it was. That said, his hips can kick out and kick down. They kick forward and back a little bit there. He does have a single knee. It bends that far. It does twist as well. You got your boot cut there, but he doesn't really have a boot. He's just got calves. And then he's got a hinge in the foot, which is nice and tight with an ankle rocker and peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So there you go. That is your lot for Frogmonger, a character I knew nothing about. Most people knew nothing about, actually, so I shouldn't beat myself up too hard on that. But a character I'm glad they made. He's a fun figure. Is he my favorite of the Mattel Creations offerings? Not really, but I feel like this guy and maybe Fangor and even Lady Slither, characters who weren't in the vintage line but are new characters to the line, is more or less what they should do with the Mattel Creations offerings for Origins, instead of, Cyclone and Extendar and, characters who were in the vintage line and sold at retail initially. I think this is a much better thing to have new characters as exclusives, because you don't need it to complete the vintage line, but if you want it, it's there. It exists. That said, there's a werewolf guy on that Dungeon Great sticker. I would love to see them tackle him at some point. That would be really cool. I'm a werewolf guy, not an anthropomorphic frog guy. I mean, there was that one in the Scooby-Doo movies with Davy Jones from the Monkees. That one was kind of cool. I think it was the Moat Monster or something. That said, random 70s cartoon references aside, let's now move right along, take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here is good old Frogmonger alongside a couple of Snake Men rejects who don't exactly look like snakes, but don't exactly not look like snakes either. We have Tongue Lasher and Squeeze, which, dare I say, both those names kind of sound like sex positions. Not gonna lie. I'm not going to describe those sex positions because I'm going to try and keep these videos as PG as possible, but you do the math there. That said, there's actually quite a few Snake Men that are kind of, forcing a square peg through a round hole. I mean, Fangor looks like a freaking walrus with his big teeth. And then, of course, Tongue Lasher here looks like a frog or a salamander. And Squeeze looks a little bit like a T-Rex with Go-Go Gadget Extendo arms and or some Mr. Fantastic Wacky Packs going on there. So if that figure isn't awkward enough, it just got more awkward, didn't it? That said, looking at Squeeze and Frogmonger here, you could potentially give Squeeze some normal size arms from Frogmonger. I've seen a lot of people using the Whiplash arms as well. That's also another good option. Maybe they'll re-release him, and we'll all be able to double up on that figure and equip old Squeeze here with some arms that take up way less real estate on the shelf. That said, still not as bad as NECA Gargoyle Wings. So moving these two fellas out of the way. This, of course, would not be an Overlord Productions video without bringing in good old Brother Mandibulith from Mythical Agents. Heck yeah. And the infamous 11 Spawn, who, of course, is off screen because these guys are not in 5.5-inch scale. So with all that being said, let's now move right along and wrap things up. Some final thoughts. Overall, and while I may not have a whole heck of a lot of nostalgic attachment to good old Frog Monger here, most because I did not grow up in the 1980s, and my Castle Grayskull, the 2000X one, did not have the iconic Dungeon Great sticker that this guy hails from. I gotta tell you, I actually, surprisingly enough, really enjoy this figure and am excited to see if the fine folks over at Mattel give us any more characters from that iconic Dungeon Great sticker. I particularly have my eye on that werewolf looking dude. That would be pretty cool. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.